It's a wider world, and I'm your host, Elizabeth Kelly. Our show today features the story of how one man volunteered to help build a ramp and then turned it into a successful business. Community Renovations is a company specializing in home modifications for people with disabilities. Let's check it out.
Community Renovations is a licensed contractor specializing in residential and commercial modifications for accessible and independent living. They create barrier-free construction and adaptation of existing or new environments that are suited for those with special needs. They do bathroom and kitchen remodeling and offer a range of solutions to aid in navigating stairs, such as stair lifts, chairs, elevators, and ramps. The business began in 2008 when Eric Cabajo helped a Detroit family install a ramp for their rental home. The family's child had been in a car accident and the home modification was desperately needed so the child could return home. We sat down and talked to Eric to learn more about his company.
My first barrier-free modification project was an unfortunate situation that a family was involved in an automobile accident that left their child paralyzed. In order for that child to come home from the hospital, they needed a ramp built. I lost my job at the same time, and not knowing that this was going to be the new road that I was going to be venturing down, we went over there and built the ramp. And at the end of the project, we talked to an insurance adjuster and found out that this is quite a field that's in need, and I pursued it.
A disability can happen at any time, and when it does, modifications will need to be made to a home. Community Renovations helps with this so people won't have to move to a new, barrier-free environment. This is a concept known as aging in place, which allows people to remain in their home of choice for as long as possible. CAPS is a certification that means that a person is a certified aging in place specialist. Community Renovations have taken classes and received this certification. It helps them assess their clients' homes and needs. So after an assessment has been done, what are some of the modifications that can be made? Eric explains.
Modifications done on a home vary case to case. Everyone's needs are different. Some people just need their doors to be widened. They can install pivot hinges to add a little bit to their doorways. They might need new headers installed, all the way to installing ramps and putting in accessible bathrooms.
One of the critical areas which need to be carefully assessed are bathrooms. Many accidents can occur in them. Here, Eric talks about what goes into modifying bathrooms.
The first objective in designing a bathroom is to ensure that the customer has a safe bathroom. You're in a wet area that creates the most hazards in a house, so you want to make sure that you're using the right materials for the client. You have to think outside the box when you're working with people with disabilities because they're more at risk at being hurt than other people. There's two different types of bathroom modifications typically that can be done. One, on an existing house, you're limited to certain space or funds, so we have to think creatively to install a barrier-free bathroom that's safe and convenient and functional for a client. Other times there is space and there are funds where we can add on to a house to allow the proper space and safe transfer areas onto the toilet or into the shower underneath the sink. Well, every bathroom that we have is different. Sometimes we can just remove a bathtub and install a roll-in shower with a zero clearance, but every house is different. Every house has its own limitations, and we try to make every bathroom and every project we do safe. We don't want to just do a project just to get it done. We want to make sure that we do it the right way and it's safe for our client.
Meet Stephen and Melissa Wzinski. When they married and were looking for a home, one of their concerns was making sure it was accessible for Steve. He has muscular dystrophy, which is a progressive disease, so aging in place was a concern. Unfortunately, all of the houses the couples found were not accessible and modifications were needed.
So we started looking around just to see if there's places in the area, people that could specialize in designing something that would work really well for us for now and into the future when I need a little bit more help in the bathroom to be or just have a better design of the bathroom.
So what we're building now, we have to think like how it's going to help us in the future. And thankfully with Community Renovations and Eric and his crew and all their knowledge of people that they've met, that brought in a lot of like insight for us, because Steve didn't have his chair at the time. So we didn't know what height of things needed to be, because we didn't have that experience.
There was a lot of, okay, I haven't used a power chair or wheelchair before, so it's like, well, how do people transfer between stuff? And it seemed like Eric and Community Renovations, they were very familiar with a lot of that. So it was kind of reassuring to know, okay, well, we're working on a design, and this is how people will do it, like this way or that way. We kind of had a good feeling that we'd get a good design. Well, I mean, one of the big things is just like the roll-in shower, and just like, you know, having like a shower bench in there, and just kind of figuring out, okay, well, what height should it go at? You know, what would be the best design to fit into that space, and kind of just, it's kind of good to have someone that's done a lot of work with that to kind of know, well, this is normally what we would do here.
And making it work is one of the unique features of Community Renovations. They are able to assess and redesign a home to make it more accessible. Here, Eric gives us a tour of the modifications that were made to Steve and Melissa's home.
Well, here at Stephen's house, we extended the existing bathroom out into the living room 5 foot to accommodate a 5 foot by 5 foot shower, as well as a 3 foot roll under vanity that Steve can roll under with his wheelchair and access the faucet all by sitting in his wheelchair. The shower we built here was a 5 foot by 5 foot shower to allow Steve to be able to come in here, transfer off his chair and onto this custom teak bench. We have a 0 clearance entry here with all the floor sloping to the drain. The grab bars you install in the shower have to have a finish. These have a sure grip finish. There is also a knurled finish and a peened finish. But you want to have some kind of finish in a wet area to help you grip, so when it's wet you can't slip on it when you're using it. We have a thermostat controlled water diverter in here that controls the water temperature and prevents from any scalding to take place in the shower. In most of our bathrooms we try to install a slip resistant tile. Most tiles have a rating for slip resistance. They measure it by coefficient of friction, and it's an actual number. So we try to install that for safety, so it's not a slippery floor. So we installed this jacuzzi tub with the granite surround and the custom face that the actual panels peel off, and we can access the mortar in the back.
Donna's husband had health issues, and her home needed to be modified so her husband could come home from the nursing home. Community Renovations was able to assist her needs. Donna explains.
When my husband was able to be released from the hospital, we had to make our house wheelchair accessible. We had a ranch that was not wheelchair accessible, and he had to be able to get in the house in order to come home. So we had to make the house wheelchair accessible in order for him to come home. When I called Community Renovations, Eric gave me the confidence that it could be done in a timely frame, and that my husband would be able to come home, because at the time I called Eric, I didn't know if he could come home. We didn't know if he would be able to come home, and if he was able, we had to have the house handicap accessible. So there were 2 big issues. Could it be done, and could my husband come home? I had some ideas, but I didn't know if they were possible. And Eric assured me that they were possible. And so he drew up a design that would work. My criteria was it needed to be functional for my husband and nice and pretty for me, and it worked. The bathroom is functional for my husband, and a beautiful bathroom for me. They were the perfect people to have in my house under the situation that I was in, because it had been a very stressful 7 months. And so they were very good young men to have in my home. My husband came home from the nursing home and is able to get around, is able to get in and out of the bathroom and maneuver. get in and out of the house.
Leanne Wzinski is a mother of 4 children. After her son Payton was born with spina bifida, she realized that changes would need to be made in the way her house was designed. We talked to Leanne to learn more about her story.
We have 4 kids. Payton is the youngest of 4. We went to the hospital, as we did with any other of our children, with the intent of delivering a healthy baby, unknown whether it would be boy or girl at that time. And when I delivered Payton, the room was pretty chaotic, and the pediatrician said to me, "Your son has clubbed feet." And I said, "That's okay, we'll brace him." And he said he also has a hole in his back. And so for us, that was pretty life-changing. So as Payton grew, as an infant, he was very much like my other kids. You know, he learned to sit and crawl a little later, but still did all of those things. As he began to reach the age of walking, we realized that there would be some need for modifications in our home to accommodate things like widening doorways, accessible bathrooms, and entry into the home. And now he's 7, and so the microwave is important in his life. And so we've identified a need to remodel our kitchen. So I chose to start my search for a home renovator, a contractor. I wanted to find somebody that was familiar with the needs of individuals who may not necessarily get around like someone whom is able-bodied. I was looking for somebody who was familiar with ADA specifications. I was hopeful that I would be able to identify someone who knew that my child was a child, not somebody who had grown and acquired this illness or incapacitation or differently abled body part through life. Payton was born to us this way, and so I wanted him to grow up in a way that felt comfortable and like home. So I was looking for someone who could identify with those needs that I had and that we had as a family. And I found Eric. So once we identified Eric from Community Renovations as the person we wanted to work with, he helped to kind of get us through the whole process from identifying the size and length and width of what we needed for a ramp to let our son successfully transition into the home. He was able to identify that we needed a wider platform at the top, something I knew nothing about, so that he could easily, reverse and go out of the home in a way that was safe for him. He was able to talk to my husband about the needs and the specifications, how much of his garage would be taken up. We talked about then how do we go about finding funding. And so Eric was the one that printed the application and delivered it to me via email so that we could seek out some additional funding for the process. And I think that through the whole process, for anybody who has a child that is differently abled, know that something positive will come from your experience.
Josephine is Eric's wife. She works with him in the company and helps meet with clients. She takes pride in the work they do and the difference they're able to make in their clients' lives.
In our company, we build strong relationships with each one of our customers. We learn all of their troubles in life, what's giving them a hard time and difficulties, and we try and help them work through it with their home and the design. We work side by side with all of our customers and just trying to make the best outcome possible. I grew really close to one of our customers. She was going through a hard time. Her husband was going downhill pretty quickly, and we spent a lot of time picking out selections, spent a lot of time with her daughters, and when we pulled the project all together and she was able to see the finished product, and she was very excited just for her husband to safely be able to take a shower. It was just such a huge accomplishment for them that it was very heartwarming knowing that we helped him with that simple daily task.
Elaine Boisvert is a woman who values her independence, and when she needed modifications done to her home, she turned to Community Renovations for assistance.
Well, my daughter had been urging me to have this done, and she went online and she found the company, And it was Eric Carbejo, and I used to work with him when I worked for Phil Iparato. And that's how we got in contact. And he called me back, and they set it all up, and they had the work done all in 1 week, which was wonderful.
Brad Peterson is a childhood friend of Eric, the owner of Community Renovations. Brad works for the company as their head carpenter and field foreman. He has over 13 years of carpentry experience and takes pride in helping people lead independent lives.
I predominantly do bathroom remodels and new constructions. We also do quite a few ramps. So I mainly in the bathrooms. I do a lot of the tile work and drywall, paint, finishes, all the good stuff.
So what is involved with making a bathroom accessible?
Normally in a bathroom renovation, we would start by removing the existing, tearing everything down to structure, and building new with proper products and getting things like the slopes in the floor right to get the water to drain, getting blocking in the walls to hold the grab bars to make them extra stout. It allows our customers to have something to hold on to support themselves when they're either transitioning or if they're standing, just give them a little more support, be a little more steady on their feet.
One of the keys to barrier-free living is to be able to access a home. Ramps are a common method to solving this problem. But what goes into making a ramp?
All right, when we build a ramp, we have to find our heights. That determines the length of our ramps. And from there we get into digging. We dig quite a few post holes, secure them in with plenty of concrete so nothing moves, nothing shifts, everything is good and solid. From there we get into structure and decking. And after decking, that's when we get to do all the pretty work. We put our handrails on, our bumper boards, and just really make it all nice and neat.
Julie Liedl is a doctor of occupational therapy. She assesses a client's needs and makes recommendations of how to make their home barrier-free.
An occupational therapist is part of the rehabilitation team. There's physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy. Our role as occupational therapists is to take a look at the individual after an illness, injury, or accident, find out what that individual's daily routine was and how their environment is set, and then get them back into their daily routine as independently as possible. Ideally, we like to have the person with us, present in the home, so we're able to see how they're able to maneuver throughout their environment. There might be things such as widening doorways in order for the wheelchairs to be fit through, or walkers. There may be a suggestion where you need to have a barrier-free shower or one of the walk-in sit-down tubs that can be installed. There's specific areas that we may want to place grab bars. There's different kinds of lifts that can be applied to stairs, outside doorways, as well as ramps. Really, we're looking at the angles that the person would need to maneuver throughout their home in order to make them functional and be able to live their life to the fullest. There are endless opportunities for people of all different abilities to have various levels of independence. One thing that an occupational therapist can do is look at the disease process and make recommendations and modifications to the home that will last throughout the person's disease. So for an example, if somebody is able at this point to be able to ascend stairs with a simple modification of a handrail, but yet that person's disease process may not allow them to do that a year from now, we may make it the suggestion to put a ramp on at this point. That would allow the adaptations to maximize the cost effectiveness and usability of modifications so that the client can stay in their home for a longer amount of time.
Having a competent contractor to create these modifications is essential for an occupational therapist. Julie has worked with Community Renovations on numerous jobs and is impressed with the work they do. She uses them because they are experienced and have specialized training in making home modifications for people with disabilities.
The most important thing for an occupational therapist is to have a contractor that is very easy to work with. And the reason being for that is that the occupational therapist is going to be the one that will view the person's environment through their own eyes and make the suggestions of what kind of adaptations and modifications that need to be made to the home. It's the contractor who will have to determine whether or not those recommendations fit within the space that's allowed in the person's environment. One of the contractors that we typically use is Community Renovations. The reason that we do use Community Renovations is that they're specialized specifically just in home modifications for people with disabilities.
Since Jim Copey became paralyzed after an accident at work, he's been working towards the day when he could return home and live without assistance. But for Jim, returning home presented its own challenges. He uses a wheelchair and is considered quadriplegic, but he has some control of his right arm and leg. If it weren't for Community Renovations making his home accessible, Jim would have had to stay in assisted living residence. Today is the first time Jim Copey has been home since his rehabilitation. He is seeing his house for the first time and is excited about the changes that were done. It is allowing him to stay in his home and live independently.
Well, I was at work and I had a freak accident where a box fell on my head, and I didn't know it at the time. I had a bone spur and it put it through my spinal cord, so it left me paralyzed. So I'm getting along pretty good, but I might be permanently paralyzed on some parts. So they had to redo this so I could come home and live in my own house. Otherwise, I couldn't come in here and live anymore. Well, my caseworker for my workman comp thing, I had 3 people that had to get 3 bids in that, and we kind of liked Eric from the beginning because we seen that he worked on other disability people and stuff like that, and you know, he had experience, so we kind of wanted to go with him, so we kind of pushed towards him. I like everything. Eric has been pretty good. He helped me brought the colors over to the Honduras home, staying right now getting rehab and stuff, so we kind of picked the colors out of that, so it's really nice. He did a nice job. Way he used some of the granite on some of the countertops and the bathroom thing, and have a shower to set up for me and stuff, so. And he's gonna make other things accessible for me. I got my own lift to get in the house now, so. Well, basically they had to make me a whole new shower, bathroom itself, because I can't have a regular shower. It's got to be accessible for a walk-in shower, like they call them, so I can just wheel in there and then stand in the shower. So he had to make my own bathroom. Then he had to add on to make the bedroom. But then of course he had to put a lift in, because I can't get in about a half-story up, house without a lift. And then he had to redo the front so I could have a ramp, because according to law, he's got to have a way in and a way out in case a fire starts.
Unfortunately, injuries can happen anytime, and the need for making your home accessible is essential so you can maintain an independent life. Community Renovations has years of experience in creating barrier-free homes. So if you need to make modifications, Eric has some recommendations in what to look for in a contractor.
A consumer looking for modifications done to their house should find an occupational therapist first, get a home evaluation. A lot of times that's not the case. That's where you need to make sure you're hiring a CAP certified contractor that has experience. With both experience and a certification, the contractor can help you to the best of his abilities to help you make the right decisions.
So what started as helping a friend install a ramp for an injured child has turned into a business Eric is very proud of. It is gratifying for him to be of service to others. He enjoys impacting people in a positive way and help bring meaningful change to their lives.
Before I got into the barrier-free construction, I did work for a few other construction companies. I built condos downtown Detroit, built custom homes. I also ran a couple concrete crews. Those were very enjoyable, but it was totally different. Now, the satisfaction of getting a job done and seeing the client's face that they can come home and have the freedom and just be able to take a shower is just remarkable.
That was great. And if you'd like to learn more about Community Renovations, you can check them out on the web at communityrenovations.net. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for traveling a wider world with me. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and check out your favorite stories from the past at youtube.com/awiderworld. And also, you can find us at awiderworld.com. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you next week.